We all know China as the world's factory, but 400 years ago too? Forget iPhones and Shein hauls. Long before plastic and polyester flooded the world, China was mass-producing porcelain, the so-called white gold, and shipping it to every corner of the globe. And it's all centered around here, Jingdezhen, one of the world's earliest and largest proto-industrial cities. But now, this former world factory has become an unexpected playground for disillusioned youth fleeing not the 9 to 5, but China's 996, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days a week, to shape clay and fire into something of their own. Yet the question remains, is Jingdezhen truly their escapist paradise? Or just another kiln where dreams shatter as easily as porcelain? Heading out to town now, and first impression, mopeds everywhere. Look, I think you could rent one literally on every corner, which kind of reminds me of the whole e-bike craze a few years back. And there's no metro in the city, only buses or this moped chaos. Can't say this is exactly what I had expected from a supposedly laid-back pottery town. But funny enough, as I've discovered, Jingdezhen isn't exactly a morning city with all the hip stuff like markets, studios, workshops, only really picking up in the evenings and towards the weekend. And with today being a weekday, I've decided to head to Laochangcun, Old Factory Village, to see what's happening there in the meantime. In the West, pottery has become this wellness trend. Slow, mindful, earthy. Something to unwind after work, but quite a pricey hobby. And at first glance, Jingdezhen feels the same. Studios everywhere, clay and wheels just waiting for you. Except here, it's not some hipster luxury, but insanely accessible. We've arrived! Laochangcun. I just had a quick walkthrough, and Laochangcun is this kind of one-stop hub. But closer to the main street, you mostly find blank forms and pigments, shelves and shelves of bowls and plates waiting to be painted, targeting tourists mostly, of course. But as you go deeper, it shifts completely, and it's mostly raw materials like clay, glazes, molds. And tucked between them, if you get lucky, you find master potters at their wheels. But as a tourist, you could dive in at any level here. Buy a blank plate and just paint it, throw a pot from scratch, or even spend a month here to learn it more properly. Anyone could start and anyone could try. But whether if you succeed or not, that's a whole different story.
如果我在这儿买一个素坯，然后在这儿画全程下来要多少钱？
单独一个的话，就不划算，还不如说自己去买瓷器。
哦，那就纯粹为了体验，不是吗？
对，你体验的话，你就不要计较那么多。就比如说，我们会收一个30块钱场地费，就是我们提供材料嘛。这30块钱是少不了的。然后一个素坯，如果是买那种便宜的，可能10来块钱，稍也就10来20块钱，能整理下来，画一个东西60、70块钱。
那不是说，如果我想从头捏呢？
不建议你。
为什么？
一下午，就是在那里玩泥巴了。也做不出来一个大概的形，意义不大。因为像你们没有什么经验的拉出来的东西，普遍我不说100%吧，最起码90%以上，基本上是很难去烧制成功的。然后剩下10%也没什么屌用。
你太实诚了，这样怎么做生意呢？
我这也不是啊，别人我这里是画画的。
The boss kept trying to turn me away from the idea of throwing clay myself, and I couldn't help but laugh. Because outsiders like myself have been trying to break into Jingdezhen's secrets for centuries. Some even cross oceans chasing them. In the early 18th century, a French Jesuit missionary was sent here on a highly unusual mission: industrial espionage. His letters home described the astonishing scale of production, kilns that glowed day and night, and a sophisticated patchwork of specialized workshops dividing up the famous 72 steps of porcelain making, running like an early assembly line long before factories existed. By recording even secret formulas and ingredients, his report were to become Europe's first practical guide on the know-how of this very elusive craft, sparking a rise of European porcelain that would eventually break China's age-old monopoly. And although in Laochangcun, you could still hear the same clatter of tools that once powered a global industry, porcelain's former glory has long faded.
Whereas once it was imperial commissions and overseas cargoes, now it's a DIY painting club and short-term workshops. The continuity is striking, but so is the change.
我们其实特别讨厌这种东西。
你完全不靠这个赚钱是吗？
靠这个赚钱。
不靠这个赚钱。
靠这个赚钱要饿死。
那隔壁那种画室呢？
如果说做得好的，可能有个1、2千吧，一天能赚到。那我们厂里一天开着都要3000。
那比如说像你知道那种老师，他们一天可以赚，1个月可以赚多少钱？
在00几年的时候，像一帮老师，我的老师那时候全3天2头的就拿个红塑料袋到银行去存钱，就提了一袋钱去银行。现在普遍都难混，艺术品就是说现在很难流通了。所以环境不好，他们稍微会有点专业技能的，可能说自己画自己卖，可能一天1、2千或者1、2万都会有。
是那种摆摊的吗？
摆摊的，你要想到他一个月，也就是总共才那么几天摆摊，就占他一个月卖一次卖2000，他一个月下来也就1万块钱左右，把成本除掉，可能也就赚个4、5千块钱了。
我看还是很多人往这儿跑的，不是吗？
首先外面比景德镇更难混，不然的话也不会往这边跑啊。因为景德镇这几年旅游曝光度会比其他地方曝光度要稍微高一点，在这里机会多一点。只要你有一项专长，在景德镇它都能活下去，只能这样讲。混得好，那可能要天时地利人和，要有资源或者说有谁铁了心的去帮你去推这个东西。
With the day fading, the crowds thin. But stacks and stacks of newly fired plates arrived, and painting club owners start carefully sorting through them, trying to match each piece with its painter.
And that patchwork, while to some extent, still very much hums today, with workshops spilling into the alley and supply shops buzzing, each a tiny cog in a centuries-old machine. The difference is that now the audience has widened, with out-of-towners, hobbyists, tourists like myself, all becoming part of that story too.
And the place where all these worlds physically collide? The markets. But in Jingdezhen, not all markets are created equal. Some are free and accessible, others really make you work for it. Prices, products, prestige, they're all on a scale here. And I decided to check out 3 of them to see the spread.
We're now approaching 雕塑瓷厂, sculpture porcelain factory. It's a cluster of everyday markets that's open daily, free to wander, with stalls that blur the line between the factory made and the handmade. And I heard their prices could be shockingly low here. So I just learned from the factory boss that the easiest way to tell if something is factory made versus handmade is to look at the price. As straightforward as that. But if you want to be extra sure, here's another trick. Let's see if I can pull it off. Okay, let's take this set as an example. Now, snap a good photo of it. Another one. And step aside. Try to do this sneakily because you don't want to get yelled at. And then go to one of these Chinese shopping apps like Taobao, or actually Pinduoduo. Pinduoduo is better. And then upload the photo that you've just taken. Now it's identifying, and voila! You have it. The exact same piece for even cheaper. So I think he was selling for 30 yuan. On Pinduoduo you could find it for 20 yuan. So here you have your answer.
But even with all these tricks in mind, walking around here can still feel a bit stressful.
Now it's porcelain on one side, mopeds on another, so make your pick. Although mopeds are actually everywhere. And as for porcelain, everything just feels literally one bump away from disaster. And in Chinese we say 碰瓷, literally bumping porcelain. But Chinese being a very rich language, the meaning has obviously gone way beyond the literal. So yeah, better stay in the middle and keep my hands close to my side. Stress and tricks aside, here's where you find a bit more of the everyday Jingdezhen. A little chaotic, a little mixed, yes, but always available, free to roam, and open to everyone.
But as we approach the weekend, the energy changes. A younger crowd gathers after dark, with artists stepping out of their studios and pushing their works directly into the world. A former ceramic factory now converted into a massive cultural hub right in the city center. By day, it's home to boutiques and cafes. But on weekends, the place really comes alive with its evening pottery market. As soon as the market opened, a group immediately stood out to me. Not the artists, but the live streamers. Easy to spot with their phone platforms and ring lights, bouncing from stall to stall, turning pots and cups into sales pitches in real time. In fact, they seem much more relentless in promotion than the artists themselves.
所以你说你就是第一次来摆，还是第一次来卖？
第一次摆这个陶溪川，把这个品带过来。我以前摆过，但是我以前带的不是这个品。
我可以问你一个问题吗？
你说。
我看好多人做直播，我不理解他们就是这个生态是怎么回事儿。
直播，其实直播会比线下好卖。
但是他们是自己，他好像也不是自己在卖。
啊，自己播自己的。
那不是好像自己在播。
是主播，就这边他，你看我们这边这些人不是要来这摆摊要申请吗？主播也要申请。
主播也要申请。
对他们这些主播有证的，也是要申请，他们也要交主播费的。对他们来这里面要交钱的，他要给官方交，可能一天要交个300块钱，然后他才能在这播。然后
那他会议价吗？
就比如说100块钱好吧，比如说这个杯子100块钱，他主播在我这买走了，他卖给他直播间的家人了是吧？100块钱卖给他们家人，但是他只要给我70块钱，他还会赚30块钱，因为他赚的是渠道的钱，就他赚的是他这个平台和粉丝的钱，就是我在这可能卖不出去，但是如果他帮我卖出去了，所以他要赚那个30%，对，是这样的，他们的生态是这样的。
那比如说，你觉得作为摊主，你是乐见其成的，还是觉得他们挺烦人的？
我是乐见其成的，因为我只要把握住一个点，就是价格不能乱，就不管在我这里买还是在主播那里买，它一定是统一的价位，不会说在主播那买更便宜，然后别人就不会在我这买，就在主播那买。从长远的角度看，只要我的量，我的货能起量的话，或者说我能稳定的有这个供应链供应到我的货的话，那他能帮我卖，他就该赚那个钱。
也是，
对
也
对。
But sometimes, it's not about reaching everyone, but being seen in just the right place. And the most prestigious market of it all? 乐天桃社.
Here we are, the talk of town, although located not exactly close to town. It's only open 3 hours per week, fiercely selective, and with stalls rotating every month. And before I could even start browsing, I already paid 50 yuan trying to get through the door. So what makes this market so legendary?
The market wasn't big, but while browsing, I was struck by how varied the stalls were. Not just pottery, but also delicate glassware, hand-dyed fabrics, scented candles, and most surprising of all, I stumbled upon foreign stall owners, and that got me really curious.
I mean, it just occurred to me that you're one of the 2 foreigners here.
Yeah,
And what is it like?
I think it's okay.
It's okay?
Not that people really care about much. More is about if you have something interesting to offer, people will look at it.
Yeah, of course, of course. And is this your first time here? Like, how competitive is this?
Because it's my first year.
Your first year here?
I'm in Jingdezhen, yeah.
Good opportunity, like good exposure?
Yeah, much more than other markets here in Jingdezhen. The owner management is not very greedy in terms of lots of them. Yeah. We are very different from each other,
Yeah.
so we are not actual competition.
Yeah. So both of these are yours.
Yes.
But how come they're so different in style?
You must know, like, there is a new and powerful market that arises in China, and they want to see different things. There are many young people that they're not so into blue because they think it's too traditional. But I think they're not really aware of how hard it is to keep alive and to have such high standards of production. There is such thing doesn't exist anymore in many countries in Europe. It disappeared. But in China, not just is still going, but with a quality that few countries can compete, So I think it's very important to keep working with such materials, and so I work with that. But at the same time, I'm aware that people look for new things, and it's not new to Spanish people because we are all familiar with this kind of design, and with this kind of technology, like the green is more our tradition. But it is new for Chinese, so they like this import and this feedback, and I think that's the nice thing of here. Like they really like this. Oh, what do you have to offer?
That's so funny what you said, because that reminds me, when the guy just now, he picked up this and he was like, well, how much is it? And then the next comment, he's like, very traditionally Chinese, and like, it's shaved.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Then you have, I know. But then it's like when I tell you properly the facts and pieces, it sounds that I'm the one that is and you cannot blame him because I know where it comes, his idea of influence, but it's not like this is a flamingo. No way China has flamingos, No way China has
That's
flamingos.
hilarious.
This is from South Spain, which touches north of Africa. This bird immigrates from all the palms. The palm trees that we draw, it's not the palm trees that you draw in China. Right? So, but it's okay. Don't fight with the customer.
Of course, as long as it sells.
No, I mean, if they're really curious, like they really want, I don't know, but sometimes they want one deal, and then they're like, oh, I know my style. then don't try. It's okay.
To some extent, don't mess with the customer is the logic of the markets here. Whether if they are free and accessible or more curated and prestigious. But the place that I headed next played by very different rules. An enclave of self-contained artist studios nestled inside a former state factory and far removed from the bustle of town. They sit behind locked gates, some with signs that read very bluntly, "You're not welcomed." After a long bus ride to the outskirts, I arrived at Qixilingchang, Factory 740, today partly revived as a maze of studios. But before its transformation, this was an electronics factory producing critical components for military defense. Once a busy compound with fully equipped facilities and a vibrant community, it nearly collapsed in the late 1990s. And like so many other state enterprises, production stalled, workers were laid off, and buildings almost fell into disrepair.
那这儿变化大吗？
这几年都还好，
这几年都还好，没有很大变化。
前个10几年了，10几年都还好。现在没有，那个工厂说没有什么人上班。像那个以前这个70年，这里红火的很呢，这里都住满了，那边都住满了。
是都在工厂上班的，都在工厂上班的是吧？
都在这个工厂上班的。都住了好多房子，现在好多房子都拆了。
都拆掉了。
拆了。这里好多房子倒了，那个的。现在没有。
For the older generation, it's hard not to mourn what's been lost. The rhythm of factory life, the community that once fueled these grounds. But while they remember the decline, new seeds have already started taking root.
Stepping inside, it feels like a world away from the chaos of downtown, and it's so quiet here. All you can hear are a concert of cicadas, the distant clang of metal from time to time, and the constant hum of AC units. And with all these socialist-era grey buildings now covered in creeping plants, climbing up walls, windows, and sometimes even roofs, it does feel a bit more like some sort of escapist utopia. Although one with a lot of mosquitoes and even more socialist characteristics.
While some parts of the factory still run today, literally alongside them, young artists are carving out their own spaces, brick by brick.
那你们搬来很久了吗？
今年是第5年，一直在收拾这个地方。还有一个非常辉煌的时代，然后就当时这一片是它的工厂嘛，当时给这个工厂来配套的社区，就会有什么学校、电影院、医院、幼儿园，就是很大的一片社区，就是为了服务这个厂的员工。
那现在没有人住在那边了，就全部都出租了。老人，
就其实还是一个相对没落的一个状态，就没有说把它弄得很商业，就是很零星的几个小的地方。但是现在更多的还是那种，淘大的学生毕业了，然后来这儿，就是以一个比较低成本，可以生活呀，又可以做东西。这里你看到的所有这几个都是我们重新建的。因为我们原本这个位置的房子太破了，就没办法改，就只能推倒重建。
你自己建的？
对，就是花时间。
Time, patience, and devotion. Jingdezhen has no shortage of them. But nowhere are they more tangible than at Cigong. A porcelain palace built by our grandmother at the age of 81. Using her own savings, she spent 5 years piecing together tens and thousands of fragments into something at once fragile and monumental. And for my last stop in the city, I went to see it.
A bit kitschy, that's for sure, but still very powerful, or shall we say, empowering. To be completely honest, before coming to Jingdezhen, I was very skeptical because I've read plenty of negative reviews online. But after coming here, I have to say I was pleasantly surprised. So the ultimate question, is Jingdezhen worth a visit? I'd say yes if you're into the arts and crafts, or if you just happen to be in the neighboring area. Just be very mindful of timing, and I mean it.
The years when Jingdezhen went wildly viral may have passed, but maybe that's a good thing. With growing regulations, prices are stabilizing, scams are rare, and while it's not cheap for a fourth-tier city, it isn't unreasonable either for a tourist hotspot. I've also read warnings online. Jingdezhen looks chill, but in reality, it's cutthroat. And that's also true. The markets are tiered, live streams constant, with factory-made pieces adding further pressure. But even with all that competition, I kept hearing the same phrase: it will only get better. And the optimism is shared by locals and young artists alike. And no one that I spoke to seems to dwell on the drudgery of their past life. And perhaps that's the most amazing thing that I found here. A quiet contentment and a faith that things will only improve. And maybe that's why ending here feels apt. 慈公 seems to me the perfect metaphor for Jingdezhen and its community. A patchwork, imperfect, but stubbornly and beautifully alive.
But of course, I've also heard locals complain about rising prices or stories of youngsters coming here full of hope, only to leave disillusioned. So where else could they be fleeing to? Well, that's for me to figure out. And until then, take care, and I will see you in the next one.